Hello, welcome to another edition of CropLife Retail Week. I'm Eric Sfiligoj, editor of CropLife and CropLife Iron magazines. Here today with Lara Sowinski. Laura, welcome.
Howdy, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Well, you and I actually have been road warriors the last couple of weeks, and last week in particular, I know that in our video last Saturday, we teased the fact that we were both going to be on the road and that we promised our viewers we would have some information for them that we had collected at our respective events. So we'll start with you. I know you were at the 2023 Vision Conference there in Glendale, Arizona. So what was said, what was learned, and what did people talk about? Fill us in, and then I think you have a little clip to share as well.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you. It was my first Vision conference. So I was super excited. The weather was great, a little bit on the cold side, but we all got there and started off with a nice reception the night before and then jumped straight into the programming on day one. Our keynote was Miss Robin Rouskin, and she was talking about the metaverse, which we all kind of chuckled initially, like, how are you going to make the metaverse? How are you going to do that connection to the ad space? Does this really make sense? And honestly, she gave us a really comprehensive look at what the metaverse is, how it is being used in the ad space. A lot of similarities with digital twins, but even more so than that. In other words, you have the commerce, like fintech portion of it, a lot of augmented reality type of components to it. So the more she kind of delved into it, the more it made sense. So we really enjoyed that, the keynote on day one. We had, honestly, a lot of really fantastic content. Another session that came to mind, which again, initially was over a lot of our heads, and that topic was quantum computing. And I loved our presenter. He knew it was going to be a stretch for some of us, and he probably about 15 minutes into it, he goes, I know this is a little bit weird, but just hang with me. I'm going to connect the dots here. So we had the metaverse and quantum computing. The panels were really rich. The thing that I liked about it a lot is we had some presentations and PowerPoints and such, but they were really a lot of discussion driven, a lot of interaction with the audience. So we covered a lot of territory and the 2 days. We also took a very broad view of food production, from production to the grocery level. On day two, our keynote was Rob Domkowski from Ernst & Young. And he was talking about the grocery store of the future, as well as some of the trends that were getting us there. We had John Teeple from Amazon Web Services talking about agriculture 4.0, exactly what it is. How do we indeed harness the power of Ag 4.0, which was our theme this year, and gave us a really great overview, not only from the beginning and how quickly technology has moved, but certainly, kind of that exponential speeding up that we're in the midst of right now. I think the other component, again, for me being a first timer to Vision, the attendees are really, really super keen on kind of the sidebars, having conversations with folks, knowing that there was a really nice group of people, the attendees and speakers both. So a lot of in-person discussions and, again, kind of sidebar meetings. As my co-chair, Renee Targos, mentioned, a lot of deals were happening during those breaks. So again, we just had a fantastic time, a lot of good takeaways. Just informally, some of the discussions I had with some of our speakers and folks in the audience gave me some really good feedback, all positive, but certainly some constructive things. Hey, you could do this more next year, or maybe add this component to it. So all around, just a fantastic time and very worthwhile. I have so much in terms of content that, we'll be diving into, as a follow-up in the next few weeks. So yeah, thank you for asking. It was great.
Yeah, no, and again, for folks who want to read about this in the magazine, of course, we'll be covering what went on at the show, the Vision Conference in our March edition, which will be, coming out here in, another month or so, give or take, given where we are in the calendar right now. So, well, while you were I had to laugh because when you said it was a little cold in Glendale, I'm like, okay, I was in Peoria, Illinois, where I usually am this time of year for the Illinois Fertilizer and Chemical Association meeting. Now, I have been at that meeting, Miss Laura, when, it's been a brisk 3 degrees. I've been
Ooh,
there when the polar vortex came through and it was minus 22 actual air temperature, not
wow.
wind chill. But this year was actually warm. It was in the 40s and it rained like crazy. So, my leather coat was getting very wet, which I did not enjoy. But it was a warmer event. And, the folks there were a couple hundred people as usual at the meeting. And most of the folks were pretty positive going into the 2023 season that,
Well,
growers and retailers had a good year in 22. We've talked about that a lot on the videos. And the few of the topics of conversation, we had a gentleman there from CRU Group, BK Morris, and he talked about the fertilizer outlook for 2023. And for those of you interested in what BK Morris had to say, I just did a story that'll appear in our online newsletter. So that should be out maybe on the same video click or link to this video. Maybe I went to Saturday Send. So check that out for yourself. But one other thing was there was a panel discussion talking about, of course, a big topic of conversation over the last 2 years, transportation. And the folks at IFCA lined up 3 speakers, Kirby Wagner from Growmark, Peter Skorsky from BNSF Railway, and Tom Toretti from Consolidated Grain and Barge. And they talked in this, and then I'll be playing some clips here, 3 separate clips. It was a panel discussion, and they talked long and did some introductions, so cut this up a little bit. But Kirby Wagner was up first talking about the trucking marketplace, and of course, Peter, being with BNSF Railway, talked about rail, and Tom talked about barges. So here's what they had to say regarding the outlook for those respective markets in 2023.
Our transportation issue, even though there's things that we see as 2023 moves along as it's kind of strategized around it as it's growing season to begin and other things like that, things continue to move. The focus really has to be on workforce. Workforce can be the number one thing that you hear across the entire sector of agriculture and just the sector in general. We've got a post-COVID world where it really just enhanced retirement. So you saw a lot of retirements come out of the trucking industry. So you saw a lot of openings. You also saw a lot of tired drivers. With the tight supply chain, you saw a lot of guys that were overworked, and when it got to a Thursday and their hours were out, they weren't going to restart on Sunday when their hours were available. They were going to restart on Monday when their work week could go. So the way that the trucking industry has changed is drivers now going to pick when they want to haul their loads, not they're told. It's not about grabbing that extra dollar as much. So we're seeing that shift. The other thing that we've seen is 400,000 less workers into the workforce through this generation. So you're seeing a smaller workforce. So you have to see some adaptability happen. We participated in a workforce development study to show that your target audience when you're looking to get people into the agriculture sector is now 4th grade. So if you're in 4th grade, that's when if you need to be learning about agriculture, which if I'm a 4th grade boy, I'm really excited about seeing big applicators that are 3 times the size of me, but that's where a real focus has to be. And with the, next we have the tight supply chain on top of that. That's going to continue to happen. If you order from Amazon, it's not when are you going to get your package, it's when are you going to get all of it. And so as we're adapting to how that works, it's going to be a more collaborative between even all of our sectors to make sure that farmers really get their products on time. So we've got to continue to make that flow happen. And then we're dealing with the regulatory side at the same time. We've got entry-level driver training, as Katie talked. It's harder to get into trucking because you've got a few week kind of delay there where you've got to get some training in, and that can really detract some people from wanting to join the industry. Additionally, you've got this on-ramp where there's a lot of governments and a lot of companies talking about electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, and how you navigate that on-ramp in agriculture can be extremely important moving forward. So I think as we look across what 2023 is going to look like, you're going to seen innovation across our industries on how we get our products to our members, and really how we're changing how we get our products to our members. And then really adapting that workforce, really targeting how we can really bolster our ability to provide.
I think will be another year where we're still seeing ripple effects. We're still digging out of our employment concerns. Our network is back to, knock on wood, fluidity. And I think we should see some of those embargoes diminishing, hopefully going away completely. Don't take my word for that. I can't promise that, but that's always our goal. We want to move everything that people want to move. We should be climbing our way out of this. There's still a long road ahead, and again, until we get fully staffed, I think we're gonna have a few fits to start.
2022 was a challenging year for the barge business. It happened starting in the summer, where we have no water. Mother Nature wasn't very nice to us, and the low water on the lower Mississippi River south of Sfiligoj, it was the worst we'd seen since 1988. When you saw pictures of the river, it looked like a creek. Since that point in time, we've gotten we're back to normal south of Sfiligoj. And what fuels for the water levels on the lower Mississippi River is the water that comes off out of the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee, which is the Ohio River, the Tennessee River up in here. We've had some issues at St. Louis, drawing of low water. We can use some water here nearby. It's got a whole black cat that Mother Nature throws us some of that. Now, starting June 1st of this year until September 30th of this year, 4 locking dams on the Illinois River are going to be closed for repairs. No traffic or nothing. That starts Starved Rock Lock, which is out 231 in Illinois River, Marseilles Lock, the Dresden Lock, and the London Lock. So nothing will happen up there for 4 months. We've known about this for 2 years. It is what it is. The average age of some of our locking dams is 50 plus years. And unfortunately, we just put Band-Aids on them as opposed to building new ones. And I don't know, I don't envision that change anytime soon. Along with that, there's 2 locking dams in Granite City and Illinois. Both of their main chambers are closed for repairs, presently. That started Jan 1st, will go through March 30. I don't know what it is this morning, but as of yesterday morning, Granite City block had 33 hours of delay, and the all block had 48 hours of delay. So that will continue through March. Once spring fertilizer season comes and all those barges destined those to the Illinois River, it would slow things down. We think 2023 is going to be a good year. Like Peter and Kirby said, we too have problems with labor. Towboats, deckhands, people that clean and repair barges, stevedoring operation, which is basically taking cargo out of ships, putting at the barges and vice versa. One other note, the industry delivered 226 new guard hopper barges last year. And these were orders from way back when that will finally be completed. If I'm going to build a new barge today, it's going to cost me $900,000 to $1 million. Well, guess what? We're not building these barges in those values. And why is that? Steel. The price of steel is the reason those values are what they are. And until the steel comes down to some reasonable level, there's not going to be anybody looking into new builds. I don't know how many barges were retired last year. That number's be calculating there right now. But starting Jan 1 of this past year, we were at 1,800 covered hopper barges, which should be okay with all the commodities that move by barge. But there was, during low water issues, there was some price values for southbound grain that have never been seen before, ever. Case in point, if I wanted to load a barge of corn from St. Louis to New Orleans back in late September or October, $120 a ton. Unheard of. Now, what does that do? Well, that means our corn is not very competitive export-wise. Now, there was a lot of volume trade at those values. It was for grain facilities, but to keep the doors open if they had a truck line. 1, 2, 3 barges. That's how crazy it got. I guess my suggestion for all of you, given what I just said, plan early and hope like heck that your product gets to where it needs to, when it needs to.
So that's what Kirby and Peter and Tom had to say regarding transportation and the outlook for 2023's season. Again, the two things that I took away from that, Laura, of course, the fact that, looking for people in the market is something everybody is doing. And the fact that we had a speaker say, hey, look, we're actually recruiting kids in the 4th grade, which when I was in 4th grade, I wasn't thinking about career choices quite at that point, but maybe there's some kids out there that want to drive trucks. So, okay. And then Tom Toretti, of course, talking about those 4 locks that are going to be closed on the Illinois River between June and September of this year. Again, that he said the industry's known about that and hopefully have made plans, fingers crossed, to get around those. But I guess we will have to watch ourselves and see as we go forward through the year.
Yeah, I am covering the topic of transportation for our March issue. So the railroads, some truckers, barge operators are some of those that I'll be speaking with. So we'll see what the follow-up story is to that. Maybe get a little more in the weeds as to what type of potential disruptions or what we're looking at on the transportation front this year.
Yeah, well, and again, as Tom made a point in the video, he said that, at some point it looked like the rivers looked like creeks to him over this past year because they were so, the water levels were so low. So when you're talking about being stuck in the weeds, yeah, I suspect that takes on a whole new meaning here in 2023 than it had in the past.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, one other thing to share, of course, with our viewers, a couple of videos ago, we had mentioned that the folks from Mexico were pretty positive that they would be able to get some type of an agreement with the U.S. biotech corn producers in the near future. They're hoping by the end of January to kind of have some resolution to this. But I know about a week ago, the Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack, basically said the U.S. saw no point for compromise when it came to this whole question, based on the trade agreement that exists between Mexico and the U.S. And I guess there was a summit held a week ago, and I guess from what I'm reading, the topic of biotech corn never came up in the summit. So at this point, the final word right now is, the U.S. is sticking to its guns that Mexico needs to honor the existing trade agreement, and Mexico is determined to not have biotech corn coming into the country after 2025, I believe. So again, we have not come to any resolution on this issue, so the uncertainty continues.
Right. Yeah, just to add on to that news item, it looks like, so January 23rd, there was a follow-up meeting, and this is with the USDA's Undersecretary for Trade and Trade and Foreign Agriculture Affairs, Alexis Taylor, along with the Chief Agricultural Negotiator from the U.S. Trade Rep's Office, Doug McCallop. They met with their Mexican counterparts on this topic and, quote, grave concerns about Mexico's biotechnology policies. In other words, they're not science-based. So,
But no.
yeah, as you mentioned, not looking real hopeful right now, but previously, yeah, it seems to me, just, my opinion is, this is kind of that, you know, the thing where saber rattling, if you will, a little bit. Let's, take a hard line, as we're talking through this. But then my hunch is that there's too much at stake for both sides. I think somehow, some way, this will be resolved. But as you mentioned, yeah, who knows when and how, but we'll see. But you're right. Yeah, certainly nothing to celebrate at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you're right. It might be a last minute thing that comes up against, some date that, will be sort of like, we get past that date, then there's a serious problem. And then again, if, I look at it this way, we went through 15 rounds to get a Speaker of the House in Congress. So,
Good point.
and that took an inordinate number of days and a lot of negotiating to get done. So one would hope that the folks in Mexico and the U.S. and in regards to biotech corn will follow a similar path, like you say. Right now, entrench, but hopefully as we get closer and further down the calendar, that maybe the sides will soften up a little bit and there'll be a compromise somewhere in the middle. We'll see.
Yep, I think so.
All right. Well, Miss Laura, time for your favorite segment. Time for Fun with Numbers.
Yes.
All right.
Well, I've got a record to maintain here. I'm batting what, 3-0, something like that.
Yeah, you're doing good so far this year. You have not missed one. So,
All right.
so this year your number is a year. It is 1927. And given our talk before we got on camera, that is not the answer. Will not be the year the wiring in your house was last put in. It's close based on what you told me. Okay.
You're pretty good, Eric. You're pretty
All
good.
right. Pretty good. Okay, so 1927, is that is that the last year there were 6 million farmers in the U.S.? Is it B, the year Growmark was founded? Is it C, the year John Deere introduced tractors to its equipment lineup? Or is it D, the year my last blind date said she was born? What can I say? I like them old. I like older women. They're more mature. So.
Does that blind date also have a house with old wiring
Well,
and old plumbing?
I think she mentioned something about going to high school with Eleanor Roosevelt, but that's all I remember.
Eric. Wow. Oh, brother. I'm gonna have to guess a little bit, but I'm going with B. Growmark was founded in that year.
You are absolutely correct. Yes, this past week I actually had some time. I spent in Illinois with the folks at Growmark, and one of the individuals I talked to said, "Hey, I got a number for you for fun with numbers. Try this." And yes, indeed, in 1927, year Growmark was founded, and I have to say I have had relations with Growmark for my entire almost 25 years in this business. But this was the first time I visited them that they actually told me where the name Growmark came from. It was a put together of two words, growing and marketing. So
cool.
That's why they're called Growmark. And
Excellent.
I had never heard that before, but I thought it was a great story. So I'm sharing that with everyone who might not know.
That's great. That's great. Well, I'm glad to uphold my record here. And I know you had a good trip, and I'm glad you got to catch up with them. So
yeah, no, it was fun. So again, nice going. So yeah, now if my math is right based on videos, our next video will be in February. That's when it will drop. So for the month of January, you were perfect. So good job.
All right, good deal.
All right. Well, thank you, viewers, for joining us. Hope you enjoyed our video and videos within videos. And of course, next week we'll have more news for you to share. On behalf of myself and Lara Sowinski, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon.
If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comment section below. Your feedback is important to us. We will try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.